Messi and Ronaldo dominated the 2010s. That's not up for debate. But here's a question no one asks seriously enough. Who was the third best player of that era? Who stands next to them on football's most exclusive podium? Some say Neymar, others might whisper Iniesta, but here's my hot take. No. Scratch that. My cold, hard truth. That third spot belongs to Manuel Neuer, and I'm not just talking about the best goalkeeper. I'm talking about a man who redefined what it even means to play his position. A player so dominant in his role, it's not even fair to compare him to anyone else. Think about it. We mentioned Buffon, Casillas, Kahn, maybe Van der Sar. But Neuer exists on another level. A class of one. A revolutionary. A game changer. A freak of nature who played goalkeeper like it was an art form and a weapon. Let's break it down. Neuer wasn't just elite with his hands. He was elite with his feet. So elite, in fact, that Pep Guardiola, yes, that Guardiola wanted to play him in midfield. And the Bayern board had to step in and forbid it. Not because Pep was wrong, but because it was too right. The optics of using your world-class goalkeeper as a midfielder? Madness. But with Neuer, not impossible. As one journalist put it, every goalkeeper that came after Neuer was just an evangelist of his church. He didn't just inspire a generation, he rewired it. But here's what most people miss. Even if you stripped away the sweeping, the back heels, the headed clearances, the impossible passes, even if you forced Neuer to play like a traditional old-school keeper, he was still one of the greatest shot stoppers ever to live. Let's talk stats. Take every Bundesliga goalkeeper in history who's played over 10,000 minutes. Legendary names. And at the top, Oliver Kahn and Jean-Marie Pfaff, each conceding a goal every 85 minutes. Then comes Neuer, conceding once every 111 minutes. That's not just better. That's 31% better. That's next level. Still think it's just because he played behind Bayern's wall of elite defenders. Cool. Let's nerd out for a second. Check the expected goals on target minus goals allowed stat. It only measures one thing. How good you are at stopping real shots, the kind that are already headed toward goal. No matter who's defending you. Best in Europe since Neuer's debut. Ter Stegen, 19.7, Jan Sommer, 17.8, Neuer, 37.9. He's not just winning, he's doubling elite competition. But wait, the origin story, even crazier. Manuel Neuer never wanted to be a goalkeeper. His family moved to Gelsenkirchen, and his dad signed him up for Schalke's academy mid-season. When he arrived, they had no goalkeepers left. So what did the coaches do? They pointed at the new kid and said, "You, in goal." Neuer later recalled, "I was the stupid one, the piggy in the middle. I didn't want to go in goal. I always played outfield in school, and that's exactly why he played like no one else." He wasn't raised as a keeper, he was raised as a footballer. At 13, Schalke almost made him a midfielder. He was that good with his feet. But then someone looked at his tall parents and said, "Let's wait and see." He was short. But, growing out at 14, they almost cut him from the academy. He wasn't tall enough, wasn't commanding enough. Then boom, a growth spurt. By 19, he was 6'2", the main keeper, and training with Schalke's first team. 1 month, he was watching Jens Lehmann tapes and wondering if he'd ever get a chance. Next thing, backup keeper leaves. Starter gets injured. And on match day 2 of the Bundesliga season, Neuer is playing in front of 60,000 fans. By match day 10. They weren't just calling him the future, they were calling him the present. So let me say it again. Messi and Ronaldo may have ruled the decade, but no player changed football like Manuel Neuer. He didn't just protect the goal, he rewrote the role. He is the goalkeeper who never wanted to be one, and in the process, became the greatest the world has ever seen. With Frank Rost back from injury, Schalke's manager, Mirko Slomka, had a choice to make, one that could define his career, for better or worse. Stick with the seasoned veteran, or gamble it all on a 20-year-old kid who just weeks earlier was watching from the sidelines. He chose risk. He chose Neuer. And so, on that fateful day, Manuel Neuer walked up the tunnel steps shoulder to shoulder with none other than Oliver Kahn, the man he'd once watched on grainy tapes. The legend, who ruled German Goalkeeping. It was Bayern Munich. It was pressure, and it was Neuer's true arrival. That game changed everything. Frank Rost, the veteran, the trusted no one, would never play another Bundesliga match for Schalke again. From that point forward, Neuer didn't just keep the spot, he owned it. 14 straight starts, 0 defeats. Another growth spurt took him to an imposing 6-4, and suddenly, Schalke found themselves on top of the Bundesliga table. They held that spot with pride, until only 2 match days remained. But tragedy struck. They lost to bitter rivals Borussia Dortmund, and watched helplessly as Stuttgart staged a miraculous comeback against Bochum twice, snatching the title away by a mere 2 points. 2 points? That's all that stood between Schalke and their first league title since 1958. But here's what most people missed. Whenever anyone other than Neuer was in goal that season, Schalke conceded 1.57 goals per game. When Neuer played, just 0.77. He cut the goals conceded in half. So forget the title loss, because in one season, the kid who just a year earlier dreamed of standing where Jens Lehmann once stood, was now being hailed by newspapers across Germany as his successor. Whispers of the national team had begun. But Neuer, he was still just a kid, and kids make mistakes. The following season, Schalke brought in 2 more goalkeepers. The pressure was back. The spotlight was blinding, and in the Champions League, Neuer looked shaky. His sweeper style, the bold, high-risk play that once thrilled, now became the subject of ridicule. Fans accused him of being careless, a showman, a liability. Some even wanted him dropped. Had he not been a local boy, owned the club may have benched him right then and there, but they didn't. They stood by him, and that patience would be rewarded. March arrived, and so did Neuer. With the club pushing into the UCL knockouts, Neuer turned up with back-to-back man-of-the-match performances, keeping Schalke alive almost single-handedly. In the round of 16 against FC Porto, Neuer didn't just save the day, he saved the tie. 2 penalty saves in the shootout, a commanding presence in both legs, a wall in gloves. Schalke's fairy tale ended in the quarterfinals at the hands of Ronaldo's Barcelona, but still, it was Schalke's best European run since the 1950s. Neuer had officially arrived on the world stage. He was nominated for UEFA Goalkeeper of the Year, and he wasn't done yet. The next season, Schalke struggled. They failed to qualify for Europe, but no, he had another plan. He joined Germany's squad for the under-21 Euros, and what happened next shocked the world. Against the likes of Balotelli, Jovinko, Theo Walcott, and Bojan Kokic, Neuer conceded just 1 single goal in the entire tournament. Germany took home the trophy, and Neuer, he was named the tournament's best goalkeeper. Not just a prodigy anymore. Not just a bold kid who played like an outfielder. Now, a proven champion, ready to take over world football. He'd just won the U21 European Championship, earned goalkeeper of the tournament, and impressed so much in his senior national team debut that even Bayern Munich's chairman publicly declared he wanted Neuer in red. But that interest, it exploded into a full-blown war. Felix Magath, Schalke's hard-nosed manager, was having none of it. The thought of Bayern poaching their beloved homegrown hero, their captain, no less, was seen as betrayal of the highest order. And yet, despite the chaos, Neuer stayed loyal. He didn't jump ship. He didn't give in. He stayed at 6 and that season, with just 6 games to go, Schalke were again at the top of the Bundesliga table. Neuer had conceded fewer goals than Oliver Kahn at the same point in his career. It was his moment. The title was within reach. But then, heartbreak struck again. Schalke collapsed down the stretch and watched, helplessly, as Bayern took the trophy from their hands. Still, Neuer had been phenomenal, good enough to earn another UEFA Team of the Year nomination and hit a milestone 100 Bundesliga appearances, all by the age of 2-3. And then, Faith took a cruel, unexpected turn. Jens Lehmann retired. René Adler broke his ribs. And in the most tragic moment of them all, Robert Enke took his own life. Germany had no choice. Manuel Neuer was now the starting goalkeeper for the national team, not because he was next in line, but because he was the only one ready for the weight of a nation. At the 2010 World Cup, Neuer rose to the occasion. He delivered a man-of-the-match masterclass against Messi's Argentina, and nearly kept a clean sheet against the dominant Spanish side in the semi-final, only undone by a late Carles Puyol header. Germany took the bronze. Neuer took global respect. When he returned to Schalke, they made it official. Manuel Neuer was captain, and both he and everyone around him knew it was likely his final season at the club, so he vowed to make it count. In the Bundesliga disaster, despite major investments, Raúl Metzelder Schalke had their worst domestic finish in 17 years. But Neuer didn't give up. He went all in on the cup competitions. He stonewalled Bayern in the semi-finals of the DFB, securing a trip to the final, and in Europe, he led Schalke out of their Champions League group with the third-best defensive record in the competition. Then came the miracle. They stunned Valencia, then defending champions Inter Milan, and suddenly Schalke were in the Champions League semi-finals for the first time in their history. Neuer was superhuman, though they ultimately fell to Manchester United. Neuer made sure Schalke wouldn't end the season empty-handed, securing the German Cup, his first major trophy, and Schalke's first in nearly a decade. Then came the move. It should have been a triumphant homecoming. Germany's no one, the hero, the wall, finally joining the nation's biggest club. But instead, Bayern Munich fans hated him, not disliked. Hated. They didn't want a born and bred Schalke captain, one who had literally cried when he left Gelsenkirchen. They didn't want a man who had once taunted their fans, imitating Oliver Kahn after beating them in a penalty shootout. And more importantly, they already had Thomas Kraft, their chosen heir to the great Bayern. No, one thrown. It got ugly fast. Even Philipp Lahm had to publicly urge the fans to show Neuer respect. That didn't work. On Neuer's Bundesliga debut, he made a mistake, and the ultras booed him in his own stadium. It got so bad, he had to hold a private meeting with Bayern's most hardcore fans, begging them to give him a chance. But here's the thing about Neuer. He doesn't ask. He proves, and prove he did. Because after that initial mistake, Neuer didn't concede a single goal for the next 1,147 minutes. That's over 19 hours of football. 19 hours of silence. 19 hours of pure goalkeeping dominance. The boos, they turned to cheers. Cheers. Between the posts, Neuer was untouchable. He went 1,147 minutes without conceding a single goal, shattering previous records, and turning the legendary Dieter Jan streak of 1,012 minutes into a distant memory. It was such an absurd display of goalkeeping dominance that Bayern Munich's chairman jokingly declared, "If Oliver Kahn was made of titanium, then whatever Neuer is made of hasn't even been discovered yet." But despite his godlike form, the German media wasn't ready to crown him just yet. Bayern may have finished second in the Bundesliga and lost the DFB Pokal final, but the criticism Neuer received was wildly disproportionate. Kicker, one of Germany's most respected football publications, refused to name him Goalkeeper of the Year. At one point, they didn't even place him in the top 10, but while the domestic press hesitated, Europe couldn't look away. In the Champions League, Neuer proved exactly why he was on a different planet. Against Real Madrid, he stared down two of the best penalty takers in the world, Cristiano Ronaldo and Kaká, and saved them both. Then, in the final against Chelsea, when the game reached a nerve-shattering penalty shootout, it was Neuer who stepped up first to make a save. And when no outfield player had the courage to take a kick in the absence of Müller and Ribéry, Neuer himself took and scored a penalty. A goalkeeper taking responsibility when the attackers wouldn't. That was Manuel Neuer. Despite heartbreaking loss in the final, Neuer's heroics throughout the campaign extended Germany's unbeaten international run to 14 matches, culminating in a Euro 2012 semi-final appearance. And although veteran Petr Cech slightly outshone him in one of the all-time great goalkeeping displays, Neuer's season was so brilliant that the IFFHS still ranked him second-best goalkeeper in the world. But Neuer wasn't satisfied with second, not in the league, not in the cup, not in the world. The following season, he came back possessed. He conceded only 18 goals across an entire Bundesliga season, number so low it broke statistical models. If you include added time, Neuer was conceding a goal only once every 180-plus minutes. Think about that. 2 full matches, no goals. He was basically a cheat code in gloves. Bayern won the league with a record 25-point lead. The German Cup, a formality. But Neuer's obsession was with the Champions League, the source of his greatest pain. And this time, he made sure it wouldn't. Slipped out against Juventus and prime Barcelona. Neuer kept 4 consecutive clean sheets, something unheard of in modern European football. In the final, he made 8 high-pressure saves, and even initiated the play with a risky clearance that led to Bayern's opening goal. That moment secured the treble Bundesliga Pokal, Champions League, and finally crowned Neuer as the world's best goalkeeper, ending Iker Casillas' 5-year reign. And right on cue, Jupp Heynckes stepped down. Pep Guardiola arrived, and he was the perfect storm for Neuer. Where others had merely tolerated Neuer's wild style, Guardiola elevated it. He didn't just accept Neuer's tendency to drift into midfield, he encouraged it. Sometimes Neuer was playing so high, you could mistake him for a central defender. At one point, Bayern were so far ahead in the league that Pep reportedly asked the board if he could try Neuer in midfield for a match. The board refused, not out of fear for Neuer, but out of respect for the rest of the Bundesliga. Even national team coach Joachim Löw agreed. He publicly said, "I'm confident Neuer could play as a midfielder at the highest level if he wanted to." But that talk had to stop because something bigger was coming. The 2014 World Cup. And it didn't start well. Neuer almost missed the tournament with a shoulder injury. The team drew against Ghana. Their accommodations were so bad that ceilings leaked, wild animals howled through the night, and the players could barely sleep. Neuer even sent a postcard home saying, "I think we'll leave the tournament very early. My feeling really is not the best." But then came the knockout stage, and in that infamous round of 16 match against Algeria, Neuer broke football. He recorded the most sweeper-keeper actions in World Cup history, leaving his box over 15 times. In the first half alone, he had more touches than 4 Algerian outfield players. He charged out, tackled, cleared, dribbled, and returned to make saves like nothing happened. He had become something else. Not a goalkeeper, not a defender. Something in between. And from that match forward, Manuel Neuer wasn't just a goalkeeper anymore. In the 2014 World Cup, Manuel Neuer's heat map looked like a central midfielder's. He was so far off his line, so active in possession, that it seemed like Germany were playing with 11 outfielders. Pundits like Alan Shearer mocked him, claiming it would take just one ball over the top to bring him crashing down. But instead, Neuer turned those doubters into believers time and time again. He shut down France. Then came the demolition of Brazil 7-0, the most shocking scoreline in World Cup history. And finally, in the Maracana against Lionel Messi's Argentina. He was the great wall standing between Argentina and destiny. He kept them out long enough for Mario Gigi to score that goal in extra time. Neuer didn't just win the Golden Glove, he became a world champion, and the beating heart of a German machine that conquered football's greatest stage. When he returned to Bayern, he was even more terrifying. By the midway point of the league season, he had only conceded 4 goals. That's not just dominance, that's superstardom. So, when the Ballon d'Or voting came around, Neuer finished third, just 0.04% behind Messi. For the first time in decades, fans and pundits asked the unthinkable: could a goalkeeper be the best player on earth? But as every legend knows, the top never lasts forever. Despite winning 2 more league titles under Pep Guardiola, Neuer never touched the Champions League again during Pep's reign. Then came Euro 2016, where he broke the record for the most minutes without conceding in tournament history, only falling in the quarterfinals to an own goal. Then came Carlo Ancelotti, a manager brought in to finally reclaim European glory, and at first, things looked promising. Bayern obliterated Arsenal 10-2 on aggregate, but then, disaster struck. In a clash with Real Madrid, Neuer broke his foot hand because they had no subs left. He was forced to stay on and finish the match. That decision cost Bayern dearly, and worse, it nearly cost Neuer his career. Even after 4 months of brutal rehab, when he came back, he fractured the same foot again. Missing an entire season. When he returned for the 2018 World Cup, he had been out of competitive football for 7 months. The press roasted him, critics called him finished, and when Germany crashed out in the group stage, the vultures circled. Calls for Ter Stegen to take over became deafening. 341 days. That's how long Neuer went between Bundesliga appearances, but if Neuer was anything, he was a fighter. Now, as captain, he clawed his way back, slowly regaining the reflexes, the instincts, the swagger. His first season back, he underperformed his own standards, sparking fresh debates. Was the king finally done? But then came Hansi Flick, and in the chaos of a pandemic era Champions League, Neuer rose again. In a condensed tournament packed into one surreal summer, he dominated. Clean sheet after clean sheet, command of his box, laser-focused passes. In the final against Neymar's PSG, he delivered a man-of-the-match masterclass, denying some of the world's best on football's biggest stage. The treble was back, only this time, Neuer didn't stop there. Bundesliga, German Cup, Champions League, Super Cup, Club World Cup, German Super Cup, 6 trophies. In a single year, just the second sextuple in football history, and Neuer was at the heart of it all. Bayern's chairman would later call him the greatest transfer in the club's history. He wasn't done. As Bayern chased their 10th straight Bundesliga title, Neuer stayed elite into his late 30s. But then came another cruel twist. During a ski trip, Neuer suffered a horrific leg break. Doctors told him it could be career-ending. He was 37 years old. Most thought he'd never play again, but they didn't know who they were dealing with. Neuer endured 350 days of brutal rehab, refusing to let go. And just in time he made it back. Not just to club football, but to play in one final European championship with Germany. One last time, in national colors. One last chance to stand tall on the biggest stage, and even now at 39 years old, he's still one of the best. He was the goalkeeper who never wanted to be one. The boy who trained with midfielders. The man who changed football itself. Manuel Neuer didn't just revolutionize goalkeeping, he turned it into an art form.